Morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Hopefully, everyone is safe and having a great weekend so far. Appreciate you listening in. Guest menu for today's show looks like this: the director of athletics at Alabama A&M, Brian Hicks. He'll join me at about 10:15 today on the show, talking Alabama A&M athletics, of course, and what's going on in the world. And you know what that is, COVID-19. And we'll find out the plan going forward for his athletic department, Alabama A&M Athletics, and the university. We will hopefully be able to get a chance to talk to another director of athletics in the conference next week, working on that. Following Brian Hicks, Alvin Hollins, Assistant Director of Sports Information and the Chairman of the FAMU Sports Hall of Fame, will join me after Brian Hicks. I'm sure we'll throw around a couple of topics, but kind of get his perspective of what's going on in the world of athletics. And, of course, I will ask him about the Southern FAMU rivalry, the history, and will there be more games played between these two institutions, not only on the gridiron, but in sports in general, maybe even baseball. We'll get into a little bit of that. Then in hour number 2, Coach Van Pettaway will join me, and I gave him an assignment last week. He coached in the league for a long time. His top 5 basketball players that he had the privilege of coaching against are coaching in the conference. So we'll see what list Coach Van Pettaway will produce. And then following Coach Van Pettaway, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. So a full menu on today's show. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. The NCAA adjusts the initial eligibility requirements for incoming freshmen, of course, because a lot of those seniors-to-be, they're going to graduate. A lot of them not going to graduate going across the stage, but the coronavirus has wreaked havoc on every aspect of life on this planet. And so the NCAA says they're going to help out. So they're going to adjust the initial eligibility requirements for incoming freshmen. So the NCAA gets on board with that. On a sad note, former Grambling legend and NFL Hall of Famer Willie Davis, he passed away this week. And then on another somber note, former Alabama State and NFL quarterback Tavares Jackson killed in a car accident. Our thoughts and prayers go out to both respective families. And then last but not least, the Bayou Classic. Did you see the article? Still on as scheduled, although Southern University and Coach Banks, they're looking at contingency plans for the game, meaning the city of New Orleans basically have shut out any large events, like the Essence Festival, the Jazz Festival. Now, New Orleans Saints, interesting. Have to see what happens with the Saints home games. But the Bayou Classic, Coach Banks will have a contingency plan in case they're not going to be able to play in New Orleans. And just to be honest with you, and people have been asking me about that's kind of the last thing that's on my mind. With everything going on, unemployment at an all-time high, and people just trying to be safe, I don't know. That's not high on my priority list. And just talking with people on social media, there's still the question of will there be a season? And there's different methods that they're trying to apply. Well, you could have it with no fans in the stadium. starting in the spring, you've heard of October, November. You just don't know. But my opinion is, I just don't believe it will be a season in college sports in 2020 as far as the fall. 2021, the fall of 2021, maybe. That's the target date. Safety and health is the number one priority. So, just my opinion on that situation. Dr. Prince, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm doing fine. Trying to make it the best way you can. You're just trying to stay safe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Trying to stay safe.
That's priority number one, and I hope you and the Queen are nice and nuzzled in with the keeping your distance, though, but staying safe out of harm's way.
Well, extend the same to you and everyone in the listening audience. You gotta be safe. You really have to. And so, you try to make it through. We've had some humor about everything as far as, going on YouTube and watching some past events, athletic events, people, Netflix, favorite movies, what have you. But I'm sure people are ready to kind of get back to normal, but you still got a ways to go.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Ways to go.
No doubt about it at all. And when you speak of the term normal, what is normal?
Well, we heard the term a new normal. It won't be the way that previously, before pre-coronavirus, things will change. Yeah.
No doubt. And they're going to
change. But the
change.
definition could mean different things to different people.
No doubt. What I consider normal is that I'm able to still wake up and have some liberties of being able to have the activities of my limb, a right sound mind, the experience of family, peace in such a time as this. And, now am I missing sports? Yeah, I would miss sports. But I'm finding out that as often and as much as I love sports, I do have life outside of sports. And, it helps you prioritize things in such a manner. Not that majority of the people didn't have things prioritized, but I find myself watching more programs that I normally would not have watched if I had an option of sports.
Yeah. Well, and the big word is adjustment.
Right.
Most people have to make an adjustment. And for those who have been furloughed or lost their jobs, they're thinking of that first.
Oh, no doubt.
How they're going to survive. And we've said that sports is an outlet. Sports talk is an outlet of therapy to kind of get away from that, at least for, 2 hours. Or if you listen to other shows, whether it's an hour, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, kind of, it keeps you mentally strong.
It
when
does.
You can kind of get away from what's going on.
And it's needed. And numbers are showing that I read an article that kind of contradict what we've been experiencing here at the open mic. They were saying that podcasts and internet shows were down, but ours have actually had a slight increase. And I guess people got time and want to get some type of sports in their system, and it's really been peaking a little bit. And as they said, you try to keep persisting and staying relevant with content, interviews, and even thought-provoking things. You think sometimes it takes us to think outside the box when we get in situations like this, because as you already stated, we're not going to be doing things the way we've been accustomed to doing them for so many years. So it's going to be a new way of approaching things. And so this is time to cultivate and kick some of those things down the road.
Mm-hmm. And if you're a president of a university or a director of athletics, you have to make an adjustment as well. I'm sure most have plans and models, post coronavirus. It's a pandemic. What way are you going to direct your athletic program? And, it's going to be a financial hit, but we'll start first with talking with Brian Hicks, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M. But back to the NCAA adjust initial eligibility requirements for incoming freshmen. High school students intending to play NCAA Division I or II sports whose final semesters of their senior year were disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic will have several pathways to meet the NCAA initial eligibility requirements this year. The Eligibility Center is navigating the complexity of COVID-19 and its negative impact on our membership, high schools, and student athletes, said Felicia Martin, Vice President of the NCAA Eligibility Center. We understand that this is an unprecedented situation and a difficult time for students and their parents, and the Eligibility Center is working diligently to ensure the best possible outcome for college-bound student athletes in our member schools. Students expected to graduate from high school in time to enroll in the Division I school for the 2020-21 academic year will be academically eligible by earning a 2.3 grade point average in 10 NCAA-approved core courses, which combine 7 courses in English, math, and science by the start of their 7th semester in high school prior to senior year. These criteria do not require a standardized test score and will not apply to students who are expected to graduate after the spring or summer 2020. So, 2.3, and boy, core courses, and it just kind of reminded me of even prior to getting into college, and you have your state requirements and your school district, and I remember at one point it was 1.5 in Louisiana at one point.
1.5 GPA.
Yeah, and no, 1.5 to participate in high school athletics.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was at one point, and I said I wasn't a parent, and I'm still not a parent, but not in my house. If you had a 1.5, you don't need to be participating in extracurricular activities. I said in my house, I could enforce another rule, the franchise rule, 2.5 or better.
Wow.
But just to say all that to say how things have changed. Mm-hmm. And that's just on the high school. That was what I'm talking about, was just on the high school level. But of course, different school districts are raising the bar on that, and that's no longer the case. Thank God.
Wow.
But the NCAA adjusts initial eligibility requirements for incoming freshmen. So you get a break, basically.
Well,
to help out.
That's NCAA, but still, your institutions, they have that luxury of, if they don't want to lower it that low, they can keep it where it is. So I understand that. So what the NCAA does, they say, okay, here's our model. You can adjust. You can't go lower than this, but you can go higher if that's what you choose. It's going to be interesting to see what other institutions, in particular what Prairie View does, because, they're at a 2.8 right now, and I'm going to see what they do.
Well, it will be interesting to see the adjustments made overall. Former Grambling legend, Hall of Famer Willie Davis, passed away at a ripe age. I mean, this guy was legendary at Grambling, Green Bay Packers, and it's part of the life cycle. But I guess they would say I've lived a good life, and I've been able to accomplish a lot of things in life, and now it is time to depart. But Willie Davis, man, he was a bad dude on the football field. Wow, just truly dominant. So once again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family, the Grambling family, Grambling State, and also the Alabama State family. Well, boy, a tragic car accident with Tavares Jackson, who passed away because of the car accident. That's just tough. It seems like every week or every other week, this is the type of news that you got to give out. And it's in the light of what's going on, it's just tough. It's just tough. And then once again, finally, the Bayou Classic. And boy, don't call and ask me where do I think the Bayou Classic is going to be played. I've had people say, well, you think it'll be in Baton Rouge? Think it'll be in Shreveport? Don't know. I mean, a lot has to happen before you're even thinking about the Bayou Classic. How about the season? Okay. Will there be a season? What kind of adjustments will have to be made? Still a tough situation. But Southern, guess will keep us updated on contingency plans and the Bayou Classic. Will it even be played? That's going to be interesting in itself. That will be a story in itself. Going to take a time out. When I come back, first guest of today's show, Byron Hicks, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M. He joins me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
The Open Mic Broadcast Network is an independent network that is dedicated to local community programming featuring sports, the gospel, community news, and much more. It is our endeavor to keep the community informed, enlightened, encouraged, and entertained. Our continued existence is solely predicated on those who donate toward our cause. The opportunity to give is a very simple process. You can visit our Open Mic Broadcast Network site at opnradio.com. Click
Good morning. How you doing?
And become a supporter today. For those of you who would prefer to send in a donation, make all checks payable to Open Mic Broadcast Network, OPEN, capital MIC, Broadcast Network. P.O. Box 891, Prairie, Texas, 77446. Thank you for your support. Thank you for spreading the word of the Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics, the voice of student athletics since 2002.
Our fans need to come out and support these schools. All of our SWAC fans, because attendance is down. So all of our fans have got to come out. We got to support our schools. We got to support our
Okay.
It's a message to all the alumni. Support your schools.
Okay. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's first guest is the Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M, Brian Hicks. Brian, good morning to you, sir. Hopefully everything is well with you.
Good morning, Mr. Brown. Everything's going good. I hope all is well with you also.
Yeah, we're bunkering down, and we're just trying to stay safe like everybody else. And this just a time that's unprecedented. But we shall go on. We shall go on, Brian. We shall go on. We will make it. And speaking of making it, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M, and I'm sure the time is a time where you have to reflect on Alabama A&M athletics with COVID-19 going on. Mr. Hicks, what have you guys decided to do at Alabama A&M as far as your plan to fight what's going on now with this COVID-19?
Well, one of the first things and the most important thing for us was ensuring that our student athlete, our staff, our coaches, just had safe and well-being, and making sure we stand within the guidelines of what our student athletes from different states, just monitoring, staying on top of that. I think that was real important because life is way more important than anything else that we do. So, like you said, it's unprecedented time. So we wanted to really get the message out. Hey, let's stay safe, protect yourselves, be obedient to the rules and regulations that have been governed by your different areas. And let's continue to move forward in the outlines that we set. So we're currently doing online courses, and our staff, along with our coaches, we all had realized we had to chip in. So we weren't going to have our student athletes alone, supporting them and supporting each other. So a lot of communication and follow-up, and making sure that everything and everyone is doing okay through this crisis and pandemic.
Now, Brian, a lot of adjustments have to be made. Of course, online courses, even with businesses and staff meetings. They're using Zoom. They're using the virtual meeting perspective. Is that the same with you and your staff as you meet?
Yes, we're having Zoom meetings or teleconferences every day pretty much. I know our senior staff, we go 3 times a week. And with our coaches, we do 2 times a week. So, and they're meeting with their student athletes and obviously monitor them. And when I said it's a hands-on approach and everyone's chipping in. So we really putting our arms around each other because you have to communicate because the information and things are changing day by day. Very fluid situation. And so we don't know the end. So we definitely need to communicate with one another through our meetings. So the Zoom meetings have been interesting. It's been a little different. Me personally, I like to see people's facial expression when I make a comment anyway.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting in talking with them. But everyone has done the best with the situation that we've had come about. So.
This is with Brian Hicks, the Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M. Now, Brian, the tough part, the financial impact, and we've kind of been talking the last few weeks. The athletic season, will it go on? It's kind of like a day-by-day thing, but how much of an impact will it be financially if, in your opinion, if college athletics is basically non-existent for the 2021 campaign? And is there the likely possibility of 2021, the fall, where maybe, just maybe, athletics can get back to a normal calendar year?
Well, after we're going through, obviously we've been strategizing and what it looks like. And, we've been working with the conference office and just kind of like ensuring where our financial contributions and what they look like outside. Obviously, sponsorships because of COVID-19 and just business alone being down. It was going to have an impact on us. But I think the biggest impact in my mind would be because we kind of like prepared, and for this upcoming year, we had a solid year, and so I think the biggest impact will probably be next year if it doesn't get back on. But this upcoming fall will be significant too if we don't have sports. I think first things first, we got to get the students back on campus before I can even put our mind around what we do in sports. We got to get them back on campus, and so. we got to strategize, and there will be obviously some things that we won't be able to do if we don't come back, and we just got to strategize and see what type of things we could do to continue our student athlete experience once we get back on board.
Well, Brian, I could just think about the impact, of course, and it's safety over profits. But your big football game, of course, is the Magic City Classic.
Yeah.
Do you shudder to think not having that? And I'm sure it's equivalent to the Bayou Classic. That one game makes up a big percentage of your athletic budget, correct?
Yes. We've been able to balance out our guarantee games and of course, like you said, the Magic City Classic. And for me, putting my mind around not having the Magic City Classic, that would be obviously unprecedented. And that would be a very difficult thing for us. But like you say, safety, if it's going to make it where it's going to be safe, we need to be safe for our student athletes, for our coaches, for the administrators, for the fans. So if it didn't happen, we just need to prepare for that. There's been a lot of talk about alternate days. We've been looking at that, and due to the uncertainty of knowing when this may stop or when it may end, you just don't know. But you got to think about other options or possibilities if certain things happen. So an alternate date, if that could be possible. I would be open to anything as long as it was safe and can give the well-being not only of our student athletes, the coaches, and the fans.
Yeah, and one of the issues I would think would be, of course, the safety issues. But then let's just say if in some kind of way they're trying to have athletic events, who's going to cover the testing and the cost of testing? Who would pay for it, you think?
Well, and that's the thing. Not only if we get to the point where we're trying to compete, testing, treatment, all of those things, maybe a vaccine, all those things will have to play. And I would imagine the institutions, the organizations, all of those would take a part in that. And so you have to figure out what that would look like for you. And not even, that's for everyone in the stands too, because who's there? Who's saying what they've been exposed to? So it's it's a mirage of things that need to occur. But testing, treatment, those are things that will have to be answered, and for us to compete and feel comfortable that our student athletes who are out there and the coaches will be out there.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And then, once again, we're visiting with Brian Hicks, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M. Liability issues,
yes,
sports returns, exposing student athletes to the virus. From a legal perspective, that would have to be considered as well.
Oh, yeah. I think I was hearing someone was talking about, we could have, schools not coming back in the fall. And so for us, if our students are not back on campus, it means we don't feel that it's safe. I don't anticipate us playing any kind of sports if our students not back on campus. That's just automatic. So safety and well-being is the number one order, and nothing starts until that's secured.
We're visiting with Brian Hicks, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M. So with that being said, Brian, I know you have to take it day by day. What does your gut feeling tells you about where you're going to be six months from now, or in August?
In August, well, my gut says, I pray that we start seeing a decline in the number of cases that's being in. But even with the decline, I do understand that different parts of the country are at different stages. So I don't anticipate us all having like a set date. August 15th, we're back to normal. No, it won't be like that. So I would imagine there will be different states further along than others, different areas further along than others. And so we would have to look at the situation and make a determination of where we are as a school, as an administration, and as a country. So we could have certain things available and someone else may not. So it will be challenging. It's going to be challenging for everyone that's involved. We'll have to make some very tough decisions. But I think the key would be, like I said, is look and see where our campuses are across the country and where they are with their students back on campus. And
go ahead.
Oh, okay. And then going from there, because then we can secure that, we obviously coming back on campus, we would say there's some measure of treatment or for the disease, and we have a little better handle on it. And then we can plan on what we need to do as a institution and athletic as far as competing. Our conference office now, we're just talking about, we're talking weekly, bi-weekly, just addressing and getting a read where everyone else is, and where their states are, where the campuses are, where the universities are doing, so we can be in close communications and move forward together.
Yeah, I would agree, and with the commissioner's office, always accessible. I know whenever I ask for him, is he available to come on the show? Dr. McClellan makes himself available. And how important is that to have that type of commission and then your other colleagues, director of athletics, at the other institutions in the conference? Is there an opportunity that now that you can lean on your colleagues for advice and help?
I think it's critical, and it's probably the most important aspect. Dr. McClellan has done an outstanding job. He's been in our shoes, and he definitely understands the gambit of it. And he's very sensible and understands this is bigger than all of us. And working together is very important. And working with my peers and the other schools, the SWAC is built on us having some similar aspirations and missions. And so the closer we are together and the closer we work together, the better we are. We're far better together working as a group as we are individually, because we all have similar of the same issues and concerns. We serve similar student bodies and we serve similar communities. And so we've got to be all together and all for one. And I have to have a concern. What happens in Mississippi Valley? What happens at Texas Southern? Even though I'm in Alabama, that's an impact on us. So I think our league has become, even though we compete against each other, and trust me, I understand, we like to see, in situations like this, the unity that we have and the commonality things that we have, and working together makes us that much stronger and greater. And I think we're going to see the fruit of that, closeness and working together going forward.
Well, and sometimes that's a great thing, because it's an outlet to talk to your colleagues, your peers. And like yesterday, we talked briefly, setting up this interview. And you remember I told you, I said, well, I'm a Southern graduate, and Teresa is a Prairie A&M graduate. So that, it's a little competition, and we have fun. Me and Dr. Prince, a lot of times we may go back and forward on some things, because it's a competitiveness. And I know you guys as director of athletics, your colleagues, you probably don't have that competitive edge, or do you have it?
I'm going to tell you something. You ought to be on that call. We have some stories on those calls, man. And, when we come together and we get a chance, the commissioner at the conference tournaments, whether it's or the celebration, but we all get together and we get a chance to talk about the year that we've had. And oh man, that's good. From my favorite moments there. I haven't been on, my first couple of years, I went on the good end of those conversations. But lately, I've been feeling really good what I've been able to say.
I understand because, you talk, as far as the athletic department and your sports, the teams that are competing. Of course, everyone talks about football,
yes.
basketball,
yes.
baseball. And
yes.
You have challenges a lot of times with some of your sports teams. But at the end of the day, you want to be competitive. And it's good to if you can, to get some championships in there. That could only help.
That's right. And, obviously, our program has grown significantly from the time. And we're very excited about the direction we're going. And we've been really excited. And we like where the progress we're going. Rome wasn't built in a day. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for the Alabama A&M Bulldogs.
Well, I could understand it. And finally, Title IX is always a big issue, of course. Mm-hmm. You've got to have the equal opportunities for sporting events for women just as the men. Your women's basketball coach and the job that she did, that stood out to me this year. But talk about Title IX, how important it is to make sure you're compliant with that.
It's imperative to provide opportunities and exposure, not only in just having a facility, but, providing the same resources, providing staff, and it helps creating a very well-balanced program. And you got to be consistent with it. And we're very excited we have some very young coaches. And on our women's staff, our women's softball coach, was the reigning coach of the year. And of course, like you mentioned, Coach Richards did an outstanding job this past year. And then our volleyball coach. So we have the Diamond Cheese Coach Powell, former Olympian. And so what I like to see from us, we have a wide range from age, experience in our programs, and it just made our program so much better. So it's something that we have to continue to work on and monitor and measure to ensure that our women student athletes are getting the same experience and exposure that our male counterparts. And our programs along. And it goes for creating a healthy culture and a healthy experience while being at Alabama A&M. So we're excited and we're really enjoying our programs. And we have just a great group of coaches in the program and with a wide range of experiences. Well,
Brian, it has been a pleasure talking with you. Listening to that last part of your conversation, I got a chance to, although it's been some years, to visit Alabama and just be on the campus. Beautiful. Okay. And
beautiful campus.
It was very nice. Now, the outcome I didn't like because I was there for a football game and a heavily favored Southern football team, and I said heavily came in. And I believe the quarterback rushed for almost 200 yards that day. And a vivid memory of Coach Richardson after the game, just sitting to himself. He was talking to himself. He was not a happy camper. So a beautiful campus, great atmosphere, but not the outcome that I expected. And that was my only time going to Alabama A&M and being on the campus. But I look forward to getting back there because it is a very beautiful
campus. Yes, it is. We got to get you back and get you back and don't worry about the outcome. Just get you come back and we'll show you some Southern hospitality when you come back.
Oh yeah, I knew you was gonna say that. I knew you was gonna say that because the competitive streak. But I've got to remember, it's about the trip and conversing with your colleagues, and that's the most important thing. So, with that being said, I look forward to it, and I look forward to talking with you again, hopefully with a better time ahead the next time we talk. But have a great weekend. Appreciate the time, and we will talk again real soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Anytime, my door and my phone is always open, and I really appreciate this opportunity. You guys do an outstanding job, the best of the best, so I appreciate having me on.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
That was Brian Hicks, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M. Yeah, beautiful campus, but a true story. Made it on campus and excited, confident, and cocky with going to be a great victory for Southern University football. And my goodness, what a disappointment. I think it took me a whole week and a half to get over that one. But it is what it is. Maybe I'll get to go to the famous gymnasium. Albeit they're going to be having some new facilities. Boy, I should ask them about that. That's scheduled to come online eventually. But maybe we can ask them about that the next time. Going to take a time out. When I come back, Alvin Hollins joins me. Oh boy, FAMU, another institution that famous for a lot of things. About a lot of things. So he will join me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Drivers and bicyclists both have the right to be on the road and travel safely. And when we're on the road together, safety is a shared responsibility. State law requires drivers to maintain at least 3 feet of clearance when passing bicyclists. And bicyclists should always ride with the direction of traffic and follow all traffic signals. It's safer. It's courteous. It's the law. A message from the Regional Planning Commission Pedestrian and Bicycle Program.
Welcome back to the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I want to thank Brian Hicks, Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M, for joining me in hour number 1. Now, my next guest is the Assistant Director of Sports Information and the Chairman of the FAMU Sports Hall of Fame, and none other than that man himself, Alvin Hollins. Alvin, good morning to you, sir. Well, is it still morning? You're in Eastern time. Good morning, correct?
Yeah, we still at about 18 minutes before noon, so it's still morning here on the East Coast.
Alvin, the Eastern Standard Time, I'm sure you're used to it, but I have never been able to get used to it. when I'm in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. God bless you, Alvin. God bless you.
Well, I've been here since '79, so if I'm not used to it by now, then too bad.
Yeah, I understand it. You know, people have often asked me, how did Alvin get away from Southern Baton Rouge and go to Tallahassee, Florida, and just been there a long time? But sometimes it's faith. No, it's the faith.
Yeah, it was fate in that case. You know, usually when I was there in '79, in Baton Rouge, you know, they just, you know, it's pretty much like it is now. Sports information wasn't an area where they were looking to add staff. And of course, the opportunity presented itself to get a full-time gig in Tallahassee. So, and it's worked out for me. So, I've loved every minute of it. So, you know, once you find kind of a new home away from home, you know, that's just the way it's been, you know. And needless to say, there have been a number of feelers and offers made from the Bayou to try to reel me back in, but you know, I love it here now. So,
well, Alvin, I'm sure you can tell us some stories. When you first got to Tallahassee and working with FAMU, and I'm sure some of them, of course, knew, of course, you were hiring you and you were coming from Baton Rouge. Did you get any teasing or rubbing?
Well, you know, Coach,
when you first got there?
Well, Rudy Hubbard, who was the head coach at the time, '79, you know, we laugh about it now. You know, he's retired, and matter of fact, we lost one of our assistant coaches who was on his staff at that time. We lost him this week, heart attack. But anyway, he would always say, "Man, you remember that first meeting we had, and they brought you in and introduced you, and Coach Hubbard, who was the head coach, said, I just got one question, Alvin. Can you be loyal?" And, you know, you're like, I guess yes, sir, I can. I said, you all are paying me. Southern was not. So, it's mercenary. It's mercenary now. So, but no, Billy Joe used to always, whenever we get ready to play Southern, he said, "Yes, gentlemen, we're gonna keep an eye on Big Al over there. You know, this is his hometown. Going out to the big red stick, Baton Rouge. So, you know, we just got to make sure he's not passing any intel to Pete Richardson." I said, you and Pete Richardson ain't not getting along too well as it is. So I'm definitely not going to be a double agent this week.
Yeah, no, you don't want to get involved in that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you know, we had those games with FAMU and Southern was just so outstanding because of just the rivalry, and you know, we were evenly matched most of the time. You know, there weren't too many one-sided games. Most of them were, you know, really exciting. You know, so that's what I think. That's why that game, in terms of the fan bases, that's why it's endured, you know, for all these decades, because it was a matchup of evenly matched teams. Because usually outside of, when you talk about Southern, Grambling, you know, Jackson State, those traditionally, you know, had become the power, at least when I was in school in the 70s. But Prairie View, people don't realize that Prairie View was a monster in the 50s, in the 60s too. I mean, all these schools have had their history and cycles, but when it comes to black college football, Southern and FAMU with the bands and just it's amazing when you think about the number of people that went back and forth between, you know, FAMU and Southern. Just over the years, coaches and administrators, you know, it's almost like we're sister schools in a way. So, but people are looking forward to coming out to Baton Rouge this year, and you know, and people are pressuring our new AD. Hey, man, you need to go ahead and try to, lengthen that contract because people want, because it adds value to your season ticket package. And it's a game that people look forward to, especially with us losing people out of our conference. People are looking at the schedule and saying, other than Bethune, and who would we really like to see? And Southern, bringing them back was a big plus for us last year.
Yeah, and that seemed to be an outstanding atmosphere. And I know on this end, Coach Banks, the director of athletics at Southern University, they were in negotiation. I don't know where it stands now to add on to the longevity of the games between FAMU and Southern, especially with football. Do you know where it stands at this point?
I don't know where it is now, since that's the one of the things that's kind of I don't know if unique to us. We change athletic directors, fairly regularly, and our just about every 2 or 3 years there's a new regime that comes on board. But I know that they were very enthusiastic about extending the series because we went from 6 games home each of the last 2 years to 3 this year because of our conference schedule and some other things that fell through on us. So anybody that we can bring in of real weight and substance, you're trying to add them to your schedule because most people are working on schedules 3, 4, even 5 years in advance. That's the only way you can kind of get your schedule in balance. And we're in the same boat that you guys are in terms of having, a big brother in town. We've got Florida State, which is actually about a mile away from us. At least you guys have a little distance, but still hotel space and all that type of stuff can be an issue, which I think is going to be an issue for us this year, just like it was this past year. But, folks find a way to make it happen. And, we had one of the largest non-conference game crowds. I think it was actually our largest non-conference game crowd we'd had since we played you guys in '99. So that matchup just makes, it's just special for us, and we look forward to it. So I think we'll be pretty close to putting together an extension on that contract.
Yeah. Visiting with Alvin Hollins, Assistant Director of Sports Information and the Chairman of the FAMU Sports Hall of Fame. And Alvin, I know you've had to answer people with this question or comment for a while now. You always hear about, of course, North Carolina A&T. They're gone from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. The conversation, the talk was, what is FAMU going to do? Will they come to the Southwestern Athletic Conference? That's premature talk, I think. But what is your thoughts on North Carolina A&T leaving the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference? And what is the possibility of FAMU not being in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference one day?
Well, what we're looking at right now, A&T they will be joining the Big South Conference, but they won't join them until 21, I guess 21, 22. So they've got one more year left in the MEAC. They'll get to do their swan song this year, and of course, with us having beaten them the last 2 years on the last play of the game, we love to go to Greensboro and give them a top brass send off like they do in the Navy. So, and boy, they've come to hate us the last 2 years. I said, well, you guys end up in the dang bowl game anyway, so because we stub our toe somewhere down the stretch. We haven't been able to beat Bethune-Cookman for the last 9 years, which for old diehard Rattler fans, that's like, what are we doing? We used to kill these guys, and it's almost like us and Southern and Grambling. It goes back and forth in terms of who has the streaks in the series, but the possibilities of, we're looking at a number of possibilities actually. SWAC is probably, an option we're looking at. I don't know about the Big South right now. I think, but now the one dynamic that could change a lot of what's going on in college athletics is this coronavirus. Because I think because some of the larger schools are already petitioning the NCAA for relief in terms of being able to drop sports and remain Division I. So I think that will probably that could trickle down to us in terms of, us maybe being able to, reduce the number of sports we sponsor. So, but I think how these next couple of years unfold is going to make a big difference in terms of whether we stay in the conference. Our big issue with the MEAC now is the fact that, we've got 12. At one point, we had 13 schools in the conference, spread out from Maryland all the way to Florida. And if you know anything about the map, about your map, that's a lot of distance to cover. Now, football is not so bad because, you go place one year, they come to you the next year. But in some of your other sports, having to go to Maryland, having to take the baseball team or the softball team, to Maryland, for a conference series, we actually had moved away from that and gone to split up into divisions. But with the loss of Hampton 2 years ago, and then with the A&T getting ready to leave, and of course we lost Savannah State, which dropped back to Division II. So that dropped us from 13 to 10. And the great fear we have in the league now is how do we deal with increased travel expenses? Because now, instead of playing a Southern Division schedule, we don't know whether teams are going to stay in. North Carolina Central has been rumored to be looking to move, as well as Norfolk State. Because the Big South Conference is basically a Virginia, North Carolina. Most of their teams are in those two states. So instead of having to come all the way to Florida for a conference game, you can stay pretty much in state, which means, bus trips. So, so whether or not those two teams, Central and Norfolk, stay in the league is going to be critical for us, because there's only three other schools on the southern end: FAMU, Bethune, and South Carolina State. So we lose those two teams in the middle, Central and Norfolk. Now, it's a big gap geographically, and then we'd be down to 8 schools, and that's all problematic. And then we've got the northern schools, Delaware State, Morgan State, which is in Baltimore, Coppin State, which doesn't have football. They're in Baltimore. And Maryland Eastern Shore, which is in Princess Anne, in Delaware State. So basically, and Howard in D.C. So we've got 5 schools really in the northern realm. And if we lose those 2 schools that we talked about, Norfolk and Central, we're down to 8 schools. And I think we'd be down to 6 in football, which is dangerous in terms of, because we're not going to the playoffs now anyway, but in terms of being, as far as Division I status, you have to have a minimum of six teams. So, the league is really kind of in tough shape right now. And we just don't see anybody moving into the conference. we could see people moving out, and of course we've been among the many that's been rumored to be moving. So that's what the new AD, new athletic director, and vice president is Courtney Gaucher. He came from the University of Miami, and that's one of the things he's been looking at. He was looking at that anyway, even before the virus situation showed up, because of the fact that we were losing teams and the travel expenses were so heavy, and one of the things that teams are looking at around the country now is how do they cut expenses with your non-revenue sports. But all of that's going to depend on whether or not we have football, and paid football is what I say. Because that's the engine that drives athletics, is football revenue. So, we have to see.
So we're looking at maybe, if I'm understanding you, you're looking at maybe a 3-4 year, 5-year period where there could be big changes on college athletics and specifically on our level or institutions like Family and Southern. Is that what you're saying?
I think you're going to see changes up and down the line in terms of Division I. Now, see, the power conferences like the SEC, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12, they've got the big dollars. They've got these television networks, and I don't know how much of that's going. Even that, I think, is going to be affected to some degree. And of course, if you get into an extended situation where you can't have home attendance, actually people, butts in seats, as they like to say, that will probably impact them if it's extended over a couple of years. But the LSU, they can raise $100 million to add 10,000 seats to the stadium. They've got people who can give and help them sustain themselves for a year or two. So even if they have to cut attendance or whatever, I think they would be able to survive. Smaller schools, aren't as, we're not as hardy. That's why, you have what they call a group of five. That's the next tier below, the power conferences. And they're asking for relief for at least a 4 or 5 year period to maybe be able to drop sports and maybe not have championships, reduce schedules, that type of thing. So a lot of different scenarios are being, looked at right now because, let's face it, most people have, kept up with the fact that the NCAA, before they actually canceled the basketball tournament, was actually talking about playing the games with no fans.
Right.
And the NBA has talked about doing that if they're able to resume their schedule. And the NFL has been exploring that possibility for the fall too. Now see, the interesting thing is the higher up you go in level, the easier I think it's going to be for some of them, like the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball. See, they have their television contract. They've got reserve funds, that type of thing. They could actually take maybe a 1 year hit with, restricted fans or no fans. But I think the key thing with them, just like even with us, is going to be testing. See, we got to be able to test these athletes, the staffs, and the coaches to make sure they're, virus free, because it's like you said yesterday when we were discussing offline, it's a liability. All it takes is one, kid or a coach or somebody to come up, with that virus. You have to cancel that game. The teams have to be sequestered for the next 14 days. That's how it works now. If I was a Louisiana person coming to Florida right now, I'd have to sit in a hotel for 14 days before I can go and hit the beach, which is crazy. But that's how this thing is going. Yeah. So you think about, and even with the teams, the only reason we even got into canceling games is, remember the two players from, I don't know whether it was two NBA players.
Yeah,
came
Utah
up,
Jazz.
I think it was Oklahoma City, I think. They came up with the virus at the same time. So I think they were playing Utah. So they had to basically quarantine both teams for, I think, 2 weeks to make sure they didn't come up with anything. So that's what people are looking at. If we restart sports, how do you deal, even if it's just the teams playing, how do you make sure that nobody's infecting people? Because even if we don't have fans in the stands, players out there bumping against each other depending on the sport. So, it's a liability thing.
Yeah.
And
testing, the cost of it, the legal perspective on it. I mean, those are all things to be considered. That's why in my humble opinion, and people may agree or disagree, I think the minimum is the fall of 2021. And then that may not be 100% safe zone, but then maybe you'll have more questions answered. They're not testing enough as it is now. One of the complaints you hear from even on a national perspective. So, who wants to assume the legal
risk? Yeah,
risk, and then the testing and the cost of testing, and then what they call tracking. If someone happens to get it, then who have you been around? Then they've got to track. If you've been around 40 other different,
it's just like if you go in and find out you have VD, the health people gonna say, "Oh, who have you been with?" I mean, you hate. That's when you think about the tracking concept. It's the same thing, from the standpoint of who you've been around. I mean, and see, that's the one thing we're looking at in terms of look at the university. You're talking about bringing back thousands of students from all over everywhere, and unless now you basically
because they're off campus now,
right?
And they're in different geographical places. Yeah,
so you're gonna have to test them and your faculty and staff. Now, of course, you probably haven't heard any. If you'd heard, maybe university might not say anything because most people have been at home, even faculty and staff. So the thing about it, when you bring all these people back together, you have to run through some kind of testing to make sure things are secure. So that's I think Boston University, for example, they canceled their fall semester. They said they're going to start classes for this next school year in January. And I've seen articles that indicated that some schools, I think Tennessee was one, had actually started telling their incoming freshman class for recruits to enroll in January, not in August. So I think some of them are already anticipating there won't be any football because, if you think about how this whole cancellation of sports unfolded, you go back to the basketball NCAA tournament. They were actually going to, if you think about it, Mark Emmert, they were going to be hard headed and they were going to play the tournament without fans. The NBA had already canceled their season at least up until May, but they were going full steam ahead. But Duke and Kansas said, "Look, our campuses are shut down. There's no way we're going to send our athletes to a tournament if our campuses are closed." So basically they were saying, look, we're doing that for safety, health and safety, so the NCAA needs to do the same thing. So you lose Duke and Kansas, I don't care, that's rating, because those are number one and number two teams in the country. And if they're saying they're not coming, you got no tournament. It's not going to mean anything, whether you got fans or not. So that's what really pushed them to do it. They were talking about, in fact, the NCAA was actually looking at possibly having a Sweet 16. Just pick the top 16 teams and let them go to Atlanta and play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and have a championship game on Monday. That's how desperate they were to keep some basketball going, but you just couldn't pull it off. You know, the screening and everything. It's a lot. I mean, in our schools especially, we're rubbing pennies together just to get through, a season. So now if you take away the pennies, it's going to be tough, but nobody wants to get sick. As much as we love Southern or FAMU, nobody, above all, like I said, we all, our number one priority is we want to live as long as we can, so if we have to watch old games on TV for another year, I watch Tom Dempsey's 63-yard field goal almost every day now. I said, man, I can't believe that. So, there's other ways to compensate, but it's going to be a lot of hand wringing. And also, I think when you look at beyond the sports thing, especially for us in terms of the ticket revenue, look at how many million people are out of work. And it's scary how that happened in almost a month. You went from highest rates for blacks and Latinos and all that, whether you can believe all that or not, but still, you got 17 million people putting in for unemployment in a month, about 6 weeks' time. So how many of those folks, unless they get jobs back in the next couple of months, are they going to have the disposable income to buy season tickets, or are we going to be secure enough to even want to go to a game and not worry about getting sick? So there's a lot of factors in this thing, a lot of factors.
Well, on that note, very valid points, Alvin. We appreciate the time. I'm sure we could go on another hour,
right?
But time won't permit it. But we will get you back real soon, and we want to keep up with FAMU, those colors. I tell you, boy, that orange and green. Oh boy, FAMU, Jackson State, Grambling, Prairie View.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you. We're gonna miss that if it doesn't happen this year, but we understand.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're recording all your shows. You may have to do like when guys go on vacation, have to do the best of Carlos.
Oh no, this will be up in the archive.
Okay.
I guess I'll go. I've watched so much YouTube. I guess I'll punish myself again and watch that FAMU game from last year. You know what? If you allow a team to go 97 yards for the winning touchdown, you don't deserve to win. How about that?
Yeah. Well, FAMU last year we did more of that kind of stuff. Winning in the last man like A&T, we beat them in overtime. Now the only reason we beat them in overtime is because we gave up a field goal with 2 seconds left in regulation. We let them drive the length of the field and kick a field goal with 2 seconds left to tie it up and send it into overtime. Then we had to put a backup freshman quarterback in. He threw the winning touchdown in overtime on 4th down.
Wow.
So I mean, that's the thing about these games. That's the thing about these games, man, and the high end teams like us, A&T, Grambling, these are evenly matched games, and they tend to go down to the wire. That's why they're so memorable, because of the fact that hey, it could have gone either way, and that's why people look forward to them too, because it's going to be a test. You're going to find out just how good you are. So yeah, I'll look forward to, as they say, talking to you again, because I think we'll have some material to talk about as we get closer, because eventually they're going to have to make a decision about the impact, whether it's going to be sports or not. And that is going to be a whole nother, I think that's going to be a whole nother subject to talk about too, because I mean, when's the last time we canceled a season? I never had football season, and
Yeah, I understand. Well, you take care. Stay safe. And
all right, you too, sir.
Thank you. We will talk soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir.
Okay, you too.
All right. Thank you. That was Alvin Hollins. Wow. Some feedback. Open book. He has a lot of opinions and a lot of history. Alvin Hollins, Assistant Director of Sports Information, Chairman of FAMU Sports Hall of Fame. A listener who is in Baton Rouge says those colors, orange and green. Well, I had to get that one in there. FAMU. Unbelievable. Remind the colors of Capital. They call it middle school now, but Capital Junior in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Orange and green. Yep. I'm glad I didn't go to Capital Middle. Those colors, my goodness. Oh, just blindfold to the eye. But if you could talk about FAMU, Jackson State, Grambling, some of the top rivalries. Let me take a quick time out. When I come back, let's see if we can chase down Coach Pettaway. I'm interested in seeing his best 5 players that he saw in the conference that he coached against, or he coached. It could be some players that he coached on his team. He will give us those 5 players. That's going to be interesting in itself. And then we'll end the show with Charles Edmond. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I'll be right back.
This is Lonzo Hardy Jr., President of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999 at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who have played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or Luncheon, where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities but who may still need an extra semester or 2 to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is SWACalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Going to be joined now by Coach Van Pettaway, the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst. And we've got to sign him to an extended contract. We might have to add 5 years on that, but we don't want to get too far ahead. But we appreciate Coach Pettaway as always. Coach, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. How's everybody doing?
We're doing fine. On this end, we're just trying to stay safe and try to move around a little bit. But, boy, it's going to be a lot of people that's going to have to really start exercising, yours truly included.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's staying cooped up and not getting out and getting our bodies moving that much. So, yeah, we're all going to pick up a few pounds. So we have to be if we want to stay healthy, we gotta look at that too.
Yeah.
We might, while we're being isolated, we might have to look at eating healthier while we're there. But that's kind of hard to do because we all love our food.
I mean, I can even say when, for instance, go to the Celebration Bowl. Me and my best friend, we'll go to Ruby Tuesdays, and we'll go to the salad bar. But I tell you what, have you ever met a guy who can go to the salad bar and then afterwards it's not as healthy?
Right.
Because I'm gonna put everything on there that I see.
Yep.
Shame on me, huh? So you're right. Need to get better in that aspect and move around.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of moving around, I gave you some homework on assignment last week, and
right.
It was something to this effect. Coach Pettaway, could you give us the best 5 players in the conference that you coached against, or could be players that were on your team that you coached?
Oh, no. You said I coached against.
Okay.
Which is a big difference. But no, I'm ready. I got.
Okay.
I think I told you. I said now. Before I hung up last week, I said the group I'm gonna come up with will probably win a couple of SWAC championships now. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah, we've had some great athletes, some great basketball players that come through this league, and I was fortunate enough to coach against some, and I'm ready for you. I've got a list of 5 that I played against, and there've been great players on every team, but these are the 5 that stuck out in my mind, who gave me nightmares trying to prepare my team for.
Well,
I'm gonna start out down at Grambling.
Wait, Coach, let me take my glasses off. You're absolutely right. Look at my notes. The best players he coached against. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Throw these damn glasses away. I don't know why they add words there.
I know.
Hey, man, this is family programming, man. What are you doing, Carlos?
Oh, I'm sorry. Throw the darn glasses away. I'm sorry.
Yeah, see, my parents brought us up to value education, so in the books I did pretty good. And one of the things I learned a long time ago, when you get an assignment, you make sure that you write it down properly so you can make sure that you get the best grade possible. And the only way you can do that, you have to listen and write it down, and then that way you can get your assignment right. So you did ask me the ones that I coached against. So I'm gonna give you the guys that I've coached against are the best, and then of course the ones that I have coached, they certainly would have been on this list now. A couple of them anyway. But at the guard spot, Grambling had a young man last name Rush. He was a guard, and I tell you, that young man would give you fits when it came time to preparing for him. We had special schemes that we had to throw at Grambling in order to slow Rush down because he was such a dynamic playmaker. He could create his own shot. He made his teammates better. So we would come up with junk defenses just to get the ball out of his hand. We wanted them other kids to try to make plays against us. Now, that's at Grambling. Then if you go over to Jackson State, of course, we're all going to remember Johnson, the guard that they had. He ended up playing with the Lakers for a while, led the SWAC in scoring. Should have been, I think he was player of the year a year or two when he was at Jackson State. That he would be the other guard on my team. At the forward spot, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with this. Flemings, who was at Alcorn, I think his name Marcus Fleming, he was outstanding. He killed us his entire career at Alcorn, and then I also got a chance to see him play once he left Alcorn because he joined the G League team that was here in Huntsville, and so we developed a great relationship because they used to practice at our facilities, and we used to sit down and talk about our games when he and Coach Whitney used to come in there and play against us. So I had a great relationship with Fleming, and then now Southern. Now I hope you remember this kid. You all had a kid down there named Harvey. He was a beast, man, at the forward spot. And I think he played, go back to Tommy Green's era. I know Tommy coached him but he was a load that and to this day, we still haven't slowed him down. The only thing were able to do is try to keep the basketball away from him, but he was one of the most ferocious players to come in this league, and he was a tremendous rebounder, and we did not have anybody to match up. Whenever we played them, I would have to assign two people to keep him off the glass and to keep him out of that lane. So Harvey from Southern, and then in the middle, the guy that gave us fits was the 7-footer at Jackson State, Jones. He ended up going overseas playing, but now these are just 5 people that were at the top of my list. They came up first because when you're game plan, when you're doing your scouting report, these are the people that are at the top of your list. So these are the 5 players that probably gave us the most fits, and I know that over the years that I have probably forgotten some other people. There's some other people that could have made this list. And then if I had to look at my own, Obi Trotter is one of the best players to ever play in the SWAC. In fact, I think a few years back they voted him Player of the Decade. He was a guard that played for me along with Mikael Gladden at the center spot, who ended up playing with Miami and Golden State. He led the nation in blocks, and I think he's still in the Hall of Fame for having the most blocks in one season. And then, of course, Desmond Cambridge, another guard who was outstanding and should have been Player of the Year 1 year in the SWAC, but he finished second to the Rush kid down at Grambling. Not Rush. At that year, it was the other guard that came through. So there have been some great players in this league, and I've been blessed to coach against these kids and also the coaches that have come through the SWAC, because when this league, you can basketball could stand up against any conference. When I coached in it, especially when we first got in the SWAC, because you had such great coaches. Coach Whitney, he was the dean of the coaches in the SWAC. Coach Striblin, all these guys. These were some great basketball minds, and I just like competing against them. I like being around them at the tournament and in our meetings and stuff, and they helped me to grow. Because I was the youngest coach in the league when I first got in, so it was great being around all these guys, and I learned a lot from them. And it'll always be a part of my life. The SWAC will always be a part of my life because I've had some great experiences. And my hat's off to the coaches and the administrators that believed in the coaches that were in the league who brought all these outstanding players in there. So it's been some great ones. And see, I never got a chance to coach against Avery. I didn't get a chance to coach against some of these other guys because that was before my time in the SWAC. But there have been some great players in this league, and they're going to continue to have great players. And I think one of the things I think coming up for this year, the NC2A just this week have lifted the entrance requirements. In other words, the kids don't have to take the ACT or the SAT. So I'm going to tell you what that's going to mean now. For the SWAC schools that have not filled out their rosters, some of them are going to be able to pick up some pretty good players because, there was kids out there who can play, but they were struggling with that test. So they got to have some homes. They got to have some places to go. And so some of them were ticketed for junior colleges. But see, now these coaches are probably, I guarantee you the phones are lighting up ever since the NC2A said that all you had to do was have a 2.3 in your 10 core classes. There are going to be some great players that the SWAC coaches will have an opportunity to get their hands on.
And that's an important point because I'm looking up. I had a listener. He asked questions, a comment similar to that, and I'm trying to find it right quick. And when you mentioned about JUCOs, he was. Let me see if I can find it.
Right, because see what you're gonna have, Carlos. Some of the kids, that last test should have been this month in April, right? The last test that the kid because you have to test on the national dates, and that last test would have been this month, and so it's obvious they can't take it. So I think it was great on the NC2A's part about relaxing the entry requirements for this year. In other words, dropping the test. So there were some kids who probably were slated to go to junior college because they were having trouble with the test that now can sign with Division I schools because they probably got the 2.3 and the 10 core classes. Their problem was that test, and they've always said, you go back to John Thompson and Cheney, who fought against having the test as part of the requirements. They say, it was not in the best interest of our black athletes. But, some of the kids made the adjustment, but we still lost a lot of kids that fell through the cracks because everybody cannot test well, especially when you got to sit in one spot for 4 hours. You on the ACT and the SAT, you got to be right there, and that's tough on people. So this rule will help some athletes and some of my schools.
Yeah, I found it, Coach. Listener Jack said, my question about the new NCAA requirements is, will this allow football programs to go back and reevaluate recruits that may have went to JUCOs who now may be eligible to play NCAA college Division I football? Although he's saying football, but it's in basketball as well.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Well, I'm just speaking on basketball, but it's for all sports. Yeah, those kids that didn't think they qualified because they didn't have the test score, now they don't need the test score. So it's going to be some scrambling going on now. So there's still some good players out there for all sports because some of those borderline kids that they're available. So now you just got to hope that you still got that scholarship left in your pocket that you can use.
Well, I was always told, and again, I don't know how valid this is, but the person that did tell me this person was a valid person. He said coaches always have 1 or 2 scholarships available.
Yep, that's what
they can make it happen.
You're right. You better. Hey, look, if you want to survive, you better have that ace in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, because a lot of times, especially in basketball, that one player could make the difference in having a good season or a great season.
Yeah.
So you try, and I know. And then I was reading the other day where, there's a big article about where the coaches are talking about how this transfer portal has hurt places. They say like at Wichita State. Mm-hmm. Greg Marshall has lost 7 athletes for the transfer. That's crazy. And I know Greg personally, and he's a great coach. He's a great human being. So I know they're not leaving because, he's doing something to them. He's not that kind of person. But that rule has given these kids the notion that, well, if I'm not getting what I want, I got an ace in the hole. I got an out. And they're leaving these programs. They're leaving the program because they don't like their playing time. What happened to competing? The kids, some of the kids now don't want to compete anymore. Mm-hmm. They want you to say up front in the recruiting process that, okay, you got the job. I don't tell kids that. I never did tell them that. I say, hey, if you come in and compete, you beat the guy at your position that's already been there, that's your job. But some kids, they don't want to compete. They just want you to just promise them and give them slots and positions on your team.
Yeah, got to earn it.
Yep, got to earn it.
So do you see this portal rule being changed? Because I know they're complaining about it. Do you see it being changed anytime soon?
No, I don't think it'll be changed for this year, but I think there'll be more discussion about it because I think it has affected basketball more than any other sports. There are too many kids in the portal, and that's not fair and well with these coaches. And in some instances, it's hurting the kid too, because you leaving the place after only 1 year. That's affecting APRs and everything else. But one of the things I do like, they are trying to put in place that if the kid transfers, he has to meet the APR requirements, and I think that's great, which will mean that the school he's leaving won't be penalized.
Right.
Yep.
And because, you definitely get hurt on that end. I mean, I don't know, Coach. With the way things are going now, and with COVID-19 and all of that, you would think that would gather the most attention, but now you're seeing the portal, the transfer portal, and you're right. If you're watching ESPN, with the information that scrolls on the bottom of the screen. Right. And I was looking the other day, and it was a lot. Such players leaving such a place, going to another place, and you can just sit there, scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot. Well,
now that I want to ask you a question about the Southern athletes. What basketball? Go. I don't want to go back to Avery and to that era, but who's your favorite player at Southern University post Avery Johnson?
Post Avery Johnson. Wow. I like the Darius Smiley. I think
Smiley was on the same team. One Smiley on the same team with Harvard.
I think so.
Right.
And he transferred in.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
And then another guy, Deion Saunders, another kid that transferred in, 00. Yeah. I had a Jackson State guy told me, he said, man, nobody can check this guy in the conference. And he used to wear 00. But he was also a guy you had to watch him. I'll just put it that way.
Correct. You all have had some great athletes. And then on the Prairie View side, man, they've had some tremendous athletes. I know the big center they had, Big Riley gave the SWAC fits. He was about 6'11", and we finally found a way. I finally found a way to get Riley off the floor. We had a guard that was about 5'11", but he had. I'm gonna go back old school time. He had hang time. When this kid jumped, he could hesitate in the air, and I would send this kid in a pick and roll with Riley, and just let this and we worked on it in practice. Just let this kid get up into Riley and just hang there. And because Riley was already submitted to the floor, the most natural thing for him to do is for his hands to come down. And every time this kid drove in, out of 5 fouls, this one kid would get 3 every time we played him. and that's how we would neutralize Riley. But then, of course, that left the little guard, Burks. Burks was his teammate, little point guard. He ended up being all conference. So all of our schools have had some great players. And I remember Riley and Burks off of Prairie View's team, and they had some good teams back then. They had some great teams back then.
Boy, I can remember Leonard White was Southern.
Yep, Leonard White. Yep.
Oh man, it's so many. Boy, that really.
Right, but I didn't coach against Leonard.
Right.
I didn't coach against Leonard, but I recruited when Coach Jordan came in there and got Leonard. I was recruiting him, and then I got a chance to see you all play. Coach Joe and I played up in Memphis. We played at the Pyramid. He played Tennessee State, and we had another team. It was a doubleheader up in Memphis, and that was one of the first times before we got into the SWAC that Coach Job and I were able to come together again at that. It was a black college exhibition, well, not an exhibition, a black college career day up in Memphis, and they brought us into the Pyramid. So yeah, there have been some great players down at Southern. I've always admired them, and I guess I knew so much about them because of my relationship with Coach Joe. Because when we got through playing during the week, we would help each other. I let him evaluate my team, I evaluate his team, and so that's how I knew a lot about the talent down there at Southern.
Yeah. Tell you what, you're right, some great talent. Coach got a couple of questions for you. Here's one. Oh, boy. Thanks, DC. Ask Coach Pettaway his thoughts on the G League and 5-star high school kids and the blue blood basketball Power 5 institutions and the trickle-down effect on HBCUs.
Well, that them allowing those kids to do that is going to take away from the HBCUs, because now you got two high school kids this week have declared to play in the G League because that option is there. I think what the NBA needs to do is go back and let the kids come in as instead of going to college as a freshman, let them go straight to the league. If they're good enough to go straight to let them go straight, because one and done, and then they're coming up in the lab. You got two programs that are missing high-profile athletes because they got that offer out there. I mean, they got that option to go to the G League. I don't think it's going to be healthy for basketball, period, and particularly for us, because the Power Fives, they're already sucking up the best athletes out there, and then now you're giving these kids this other option to go to the G League, and then some of the kids not even doing the G League, they just going straight overseas. So that's hurting the game. That's hurting the game of college basketball, and it does trickle down to us because some of those athletes that we would have an opportunity to get now they're being taken to the Power Five conference because they are losing these other players. So it's going to always hurt us.
All righty. Last one, Coach. Well, this is more of a comment. Listener Jack says, actually, the NCAA portal rule will benefit the kid more by the first-time transfer eligible rule that might go into effect next year.
Right, yeah. But see, now they're going to vote on that. The date to vote on that has been moved to May 20th.
May 20th, okay.
Yeah. They moved that to May 20th. See, we discussed that on our last conference call with I'm still on the ethics commission, and that was on our call. They told us then that they were going to move it, and then they've just made the announcement that it'll be May 20th. And what that would do for all sports, to include football and basketball, that kid can do that one-time transfer. But that'll settle things down because now you got that opportunity, and the rules are already in place to protect the school that you're leaving from. You can only use that rule if you are academically eligible and you don't cost the school that you're leaving any APR points.
Okay.
So that will help. But they won't vote until May 20th. And May if 20th. They vote May 20th now, it's going to be in effect immediately.
Immediately, okay.
Mm-hmm.
May 20th and immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, my last thing, combo guard, point guard, shooting guard. Is it better to have a shooting guard or a point guard or a combo guard who can do both equally well?
Well, to be honest now, you need all three on your team. No, you do. You gotta have. First of all, you gotta have a point guard. That's your engine. He drives your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he comes off the floor, that's where that combo guard comes in. The combo guard can give your point guard some rest. Okay, then that third one that you mentioned, the shooting guard, he's on the floor, he's shooting. Now, that combo guard is the same guy that can replace him and give him rest.
Okay.
Yeah, you need that. On a good team, you're gonna have that. You need a combo guard. You need somebody to do that at the guard spot. And you need one forward that can do that. If you got a forward that can play two positions, you already got your substitution pattern is already set.
Yeah,
I got my two starters at the guard. Now I got my combo guard on the bench. Combo guard can rest whoever I need to rest first. Do I need to take the point guard out? No, I don't need that right now. Let's take the two guard out. Get in, combo guard. Then if you got a forward like that, you got a guy that can play on the block and can step away from the basket, then he can give you rest for your two forwards. Yeah, for me now, I would have to have all three, and I try to have all three.
And last but not least, when you hear the term positionless, you hear it a lot in the NBA. Is that a good thing? Same thing? Can play multiple positions, can play four positions on the court?
I want that. I want a guy who, because it helps you with substitution pattern. Because if you got a guy that can play more than one position, you don't need some of those other guys. So it's easier if you got a guy who is a positionless player. If he can just get the job done, don't worry about what position he plays. Put him on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you. I like that. I like people like that.
Oh, boy. Okay now, Jack. All right, now I'm calling by his first name now, Jack. Normally the term combo guard is a guard that hasn't mastered the point nor the shooting guard position, but is okay at both positions. See, well, now I'm thinking about Jacqueline Winfield. Now, she was a woman basketball player at Southern. She could do both equally.
Right, right.
Thus the combo guard, and that's kind of the term I like to use, but that's just me.
Right. I like the term combo guard. And in the recruiting process, some of the kids are putting themselves out there as that. And they're the ones that a lot of schools are recruiting because they can give you. See, you need minutes at both positions. You got to have rest at both positions. Mm-hmm. So if you got one guy that can do them both, you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Now that's just me. Everybody has different. Some coaches have different philosophies. Or they don't want a combo guard. I do. Because number one, my kids are not going to be. I very rarely will have a kid to play a whole game. He can't. You physically cannot play the whole game for me because of the style of play. I'm not going to walk the ball up the floor for you to rest.
No.
Right.
And then your teams, from an energy standpoint, they I'm saying this, they were in excellent shape.
Right.
Because not only did you play up tempo on offense, but defense, you were hell.
Right. We had to go get them. So that's why my teams had to be deep, and that's why a combo player was very vital to my success because I had to give people rest. We did not have 40-minute players. You can't have them and play it the way I want it played.
Yeah.
So that helped me in recruiting because I pull out the stat sheet and show. I said, look at the minutes played. I'm not just in here blowing smoke. My kids. If you come and play, you going to play. If you got game, you going to play. And here's my proof. Look at the minutes played. And most of the time, I'm using either the current season stats or the previous season. I said, now, when you look at the other schools that are recruiting you, see how many people they let them play. If they don't let 5 or 6 or 7 people play, what are your chances? Are you going to be in the top 7, top 5? Come play for me because we're going to play a lot of people.
Well, it's a unique term. Well, I won't say unique because you hear it more and more now. A combo guard, for those who like to use traditional term, the point guard, at the 2, the shooting guard, at the 3, the small forward. Now, I will say this, Coach, in my opinion, and you're the coach, you would know better than me. What I have seen, even on the NBA level, that 3 position.
Got to be a great athlete.
Yep. And he has evolved into maybe a 6. You have a 6'10", 6'11" guy.
Yep.
That can take you off the dribble, can face the basket, can play with his back to the basket. To me, and some would say Scottie Pippen was one of the front runners or forerunners to do this, but then, Magic Johnson, 6'9", point guard that plays several positions.
Right, and one of the other terms they're using now for that, a point forward.
Coach. That's right, you're the coach.
A point forward because he can facilitate your offense from that 3 spot. And Scottie Pippen was the first one in the NBA to do it, and a lot of kids who this is what's happening. Kids are growing at a faster rate now. Okay, like if we go back to the SWAC, the kid that I was thinking of at Grambling in January at my place, I got Mr. Haynes. He's a 6'3" forward, 6'3" guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. In March, I go to Grambling. I don't see this 6'3" kid. I'm looking at a 6'8" kid now.
Mm-hmm.
He grew, but he grew from 6'3" to 6'8", but he still had the guard skills. But now he's playing the big forward spot, and he was a tough matchup. So a lot of times kids grow up. I mean, they start out as a guard, but because of their height, they evolve into forwards or centers, but they still got guard skills.
Gotcha. Anthony Davis, another one.
Right, that's what I was just going to tell you. Anthony Davis in the NBA, prime example.
Mm-hmm.
6'5" in high school, turned into a 6'11" phenom.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Durant, another one.
Yep.
Now Durant gets mad when you say he's 6'10", 6'11". He wants to say 6'9", be taller than that to me.
Yep. Yeah, he is. But yeah, basketball has evolved, and just because you're tall doesn't mean you have to be stuck under the basket. They don't do that anymore. They stretch the floor. That's why the term "stretch forward" has come out.
Well, and when I hear you say that now, tell me if I'm wrong, Coach. When I think about that, then it made me think about the European style.
Yep. That's where it originated.
Yeah, and now me and my best friend would go, not debate, but we would often talk about, when Michael Jordan them played and stuff, and you could hand check. But what's the term I want to use? The European style is more of a finesse style, and seems like that had transcended into the NBA compared to, kind of like the old school where no layup rule. You come in, it was very physical. Now it's not as physical to me.
Right. What they did, some of the coaches back in the day, they termed it as the true form of basketball, the purest form of basketball on the European side, because there was more flow to the game. Their rules did not allow you to hand check. So therefore the players are able to move about more freely. And see, this goes back to Coach McClendon. If you research Coach McClendon, who was Coach Joe's mentor, you will see him way back in the 50s and 60s talking about how the Europeans will one day be a big integral part of the game of basketball because of the way they played. See, when he and Coach Joe them used to go over there and do those clinics, they saw it. When they would bring them over there to help teach the game of basketball, those people and those kids, they bought in. And they didn't go over there teaching hand checking and all of that. On the offensive end, they wanted it to be free flowing. And that's what has developed those European people over there. And, the game, Coach Mack always said that the game would be global. Well before the NBA had an opportunity to say it, they knew it from the collegiate level. So, everything that those guys talked about way back is coming to fruition now. Because when you look at the NBA, these foreign athletes have really made a major impact.
A major impact. And speaking of impact, Jack is back again. Good point. He said there was Bob Love before the point forward term existed. And
Chicago Bulls, yep.
Yep, and guess what? You remember
the Iceman from Southern too now.
Yeah, Bob Love. Mm-hmm. And he also made the point of George Gervin, the Iceman. Oh, I love George Gervin.
Yep. Oh, yeah, finger roll.
And what was he, about 6'8", 6'9", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9"? Yeah. Oh, boy. And go back into the days.
Yep.
Of those great players. But it's interesting, though. It's interesting. The combo guard, positionless. It's kind of how things have changed. And also the European effect.
Right.
The stretch forward. You never thought you would say half these terms.
Right.
Stretch forward. So I got a 7-foot guy that can shoot threes consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not in the post.
Yep.
Basketball has changed, Coach.
Oh, yes.
Basketball has changed. I wonder if you could just win with all 6'6" guys in the conference.
Yes, you can.
6'6" point guard, 6'6" shoot guard at the 3 and the 4 and at the center. So you run 4 out and 1 in?
No, you can do a lot with a combination like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You can do a lot with a combination like that. It will create matchup problems for the other team. You can do a lot.
Well, I think the Houston Rockets were attempting to do something like that, but
they're small. I'm not sure. I really wish the season will be able to start up again, because I really want to see if they can actually win with that. Because I think in the NBA, you might be able to overpower a team like that. And to me, if their jump shots are not on, they're not going to win. And if you relate that to the SWAC, you think that's what happened a lot of times to Alcorn, because they relied on the three so much?
Well, I can give you my opinion on it. They lived and died by it.
Right.
Now, we didn't hear that term, who wants that smoke? We heard that football. But for basketball, you didn't hear that. And some of the Alcorn Knights that I talked with, they were actually very passionate about it. Valid point. What you saying? You live by the three, you die by the three, and they would like to see the next coach kind of have balance. You know, you can
I think you got to have balance. You're right. Mm-hmm. I like the 3-point shot, but I still want that ball inside. I'm not. We just didn't jack the threes up. Everybody on my team could not shoot the three. I didn't allow that. You had to shoot a certain percentage to have the freedom to shoot it in the game.
Yeah, go inside out.
Right.
I mean, a good post player, and if you think back in the day, even with Southern and Avery Johnson, boy, you just talking about just. Yeah, but see, Avery had Leonard and all that. They weren't just put. And I keep his name keeps. I keep forgetting his name. The kid that went to Charlotte that was killed in the car crash. Oh, Fields. Bobby. Oh, yeah. Now see, Bobby was a perimeter scorer, but you think about what Avery did. Avery penetrated and dished. He's handing off to guys, and then of course, he gonna set the table for his shooters. That's what a good point guard is supposed to do. He sets the table for those shooters, but everybody was not shooting that long shot. You know, Bobby did, and some of those other guys, but Coach Job had designated shooters, and he wanted to make sure that his scorers got the basketball, and it was the point guard's responsibility to make sure that he was setting the table for those scorers. That's a valid point, Coach, because sometimes you can be watching games, certain players can shoot you in a game, and they can shoot you out of the game. and you know, you're going to continue to shoot up, then no. This is what needs to happen. We're going to go inside out. But just being balanced, to me, it's very important. And again, what I saw from your teams, they were balanced. You knew what a Coach Pettaway team was going to do. They was going to put pressure on you offensively by playing up tempo, utilizing the whole court, and then defensively, they got into you like another skin. Right. That's the only way I knew how to coach it or play it. That was me. That's what I looked for. And then you had to have the right athletes to accomplish that. Kind of like the Georgetown version in the SWAC. Yep. Defensive and offensive. Yep. Pressure both ways. Mm. But see, that was already in the SWAC. I didn't invent that. Right. They were Coach Whitney, Coach Job, all those guys were already. Coach Moreland at Texas Southern. Those guys were already playing that kind of basketball. The only thing I thought I did differently when I first got in the SWAC, we were one of the only pressing teams in the SWAC, because once Coach Job left, the other people were not pressing. And then, like when Coach Whitney used to try to pick my brain about what we were doing on the defensive end, because some of the coaches would be confused. They didn't know if we were in a zone or a man-to-man. So some of those combo defenses that we were doing, it kept us in games, and it helped us to win a few games. Wow. You didn't have a version of, no, it couldn't be. Could be. What Dale Brown used to have the defense called the Freak? No, he had the Freak, but you know what their name? Mine was the Kitchen Sink. We're going to throw everything at you. Okay, on that note, that's a perfect way to transition out of this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show.
And with Carlos, next week, let's get Alcorn to give us their version of the best five. Let's get somebody else to give us their version of the best five players.
From Alcorn?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Get Charles to give us. He's been in the league a long time. Let him give us his five best.
Will do.
All right. Thank you.
Will. All right. Have a great weekend, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You all be safe.
All right. Thank you. All right. That was Coach Van Pettaway. I want to thank Brian Hicks, the Director of Athletics at Alabama A&M, Alvin Hollins, Assistant Sports Information Director at FAMU and Chairman of the FAMU board. No, FAMU. Oh, well. I had it down here. Goodness. But anyway, thank Alvin Hollins, Coach Van Pettaway. Didn't get to Charles Edmond. We just ran flat out of time. We'll get him back for next week. I want to thank Dr. Michael Prince and everyone who participated in today's show. It was fun. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until that time, as always, peace and God bless.